Welcome to Muscles and Magic the Gathering. Now, me, Bobby Maximus, I am the muscles. The Magic the Gathering, it's these cards right here. And today, we are talking about the best squirrel deck you are ever going to see. And yes, I said squirrel deck. This is my Chatterfang Squirrel General Commander deck, and it's one of my favorite decks. It actually started, I built this out because it's one of my kids' favorite kin types or kin folks. He really wanted a squirrel deck, and I decided if he wants a squirrel deck, we are going to go all out. So let's go through Chatterfang. You're going to learn about the commander. You're going to learn the creatures that I use, the enchantments, the instants, the artifacts, what makes them all go, synergies and strategies to help you build the greatest squirrel deck ever like mine. So starting off, we're going to talk about Chatterfang, which is not only a great card in the squirrel deck as a commander, but it's a great card in a lot of other decks. I've got one in my Corvold Treasure deck. I've also got one in my Hardened Scales deck, which is my +1/+1 counters deck. But anyway, what does Chatterfang do? He's got Forest Walk, which means if you've got forests, you're in for a long day. And if one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens are created instead. The goal with this commander is to overrun the board with squirrels and take somebody out. And then he's got this ability. You pay a mana, a black mana, you sacrifice X squirrels, and target creature gets +X -X until the end of turn. So that's a great way to wipe out other people's creatures. So Chatterfang, Squirrel General, he is green and black, so I can include some green and black cards. We're going to talk about creatures, and you know it's a squirrel deck. There's a lot of squirrels in here. When I build themed decks, I try to stay true to the theme. So this deck is all about two things: generating tokens and creating a whole lot of squirrels. So the first card, the Squirrel Mob. Squirrel Mob gets +1/+1 for each other squirrel on the battlefield. It's got a casting cost of 3 mana, 2 green, and 1 colorless. It's a 2/2 creature. We've got the Scurry of Squirrels. It's got Myriad. Whenever this creature attacks for each opponent other than defending player, you may create a token that's a copy of this creature that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. Then do it again. Exile the tokens at the end of combat. Whenever Scurry of Squirrels deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on each target creature you control. The Earl of Squirrel. Now, I got to look this up because I'm fairly sure this is a highly illegal banned card. It should be unbanned. Listen, the squirrels need some help. They need some love. Squirrels generally are not the strongest kin type. They're not the strongest kin folk. I'm going to look it up on my deck list. By the way, all my deck lists are on my Mox field. You can find them in the show notes, but it's how I organize my decks. You know, I've got 50 plus commander decks right now, and it's the way I organize them. Otherwise, I cannot keep track. These are all real cards that I own, and all these decks exist in real time. I don't transfer cards from deck to deck. Like if you see the deck online, that is sitting with me right now. So anyway, my squirrel deck, which is called the Swarms of Ratatoskr. Let's see here. Yes, the Earl of Squirrel is banned, unfortunately, but I put him in anyway. Why? Because I love the card and the squirrels need some help. When I build commander decks, one of the things I want you to keep in mind is, yes, I make them to be a little bit competitive. Like I want them to be good decks, and this deck goes hard. Trust me. But I also do it for the collection, and this was too important to not include. It's got Squirrel Ink. Damage dealt by this creature causes you to create that many 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. Creature tokens you control are squirrels in addition to their other creature types. Other squirrels you get +1/+1. I have no idea why this is banned. Like, it's not that bad. There are cards way more powerful that are elves. There are cards that are way more powerful that are goblins. I think this is a go. I'm going to keep it in my deck. And you know what? Because I do this for collecting, if someone doesn't like the card, then I can always use my sideboard, right? Squirrel Sovereign. Other squirrels you get control get +1/+1. A lot of squirrel anthems in this deck. Okay, Pippin, Warden of Isengard. Great card to pair with Chatterfang. You tap one, you create 1 food token. You sacrifice 4 foods. Other creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain haste until the end of turn. So that's useful in battle. But the big thing is Chatterfang, and there's a lot of synergies like this in this deck. If I create a food token, I also create a squirrel token. So for 1 mana, I can create 2 tokens. Awesome card. The Valley Mite Caller, not a squirrel, but he's helpful to a squirrel. And in the world of Bloomburrow, frogs and squirrels can be friends. Whenever another frog, rabbit, raccoon, or squirrel you control enters, put a 1/1 counter on the Valley Mite Caller. With all the squirrel tokens I'm going to be making, this card gets out of control in a hurry. This is a problem. This gets on the board. You got to deal with this. Yurga, Eater of All. Ward, sacrifice a food, and other creatures are food artifacts in addition to their other types, and have pay 2, sacrifice is permanent, gain 3 life. That's what a food does. Whenever a food is put into the graveyard from battle, put 2 1/1 counters on Yurga, Eater of All. Great synergy, creating all these tokens with the squirrels. The Thorn Vault Forager, Squirrel Ranger. It's a way to mana ramp. I can add a green mana. Forage, add 2 mana in any combination of colors. And then 3, search your library for a squirrel card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. It acts as a squirrel tutor. Osteomancer Adept. It's got Death Touch, and until the end of turn, you may cast creature spells from the graveyard by foraging in addition to paying their other costs. If you can cast a spell this way, that creature enters with a finality counter on it. Tireless Provisioner, Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, create a food token or treasure token, and guess what? I also get to make a squirrel token with Chatterfang. So there's a lot of token generators in here. You'll see like a food theme in here. Deep Forest Hermit, Vanishing 3. What does that mean? This creature enters with 3 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter from it. When the last one's removed, sacrifice it. When Deep Forest Hermit enters, create 4 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. Squirrels you get, or squirrels you control, get +1/+1. And with this guy, I am making 8 squirrel tokens. So love that card. Camellia, the Seed Miser. Menace, and other squirrels you control have menace. That means it can only be blocked by 2 creatures or more. Whenever you sacrifice 1 or more foods, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token, which if it's on the battlefield with Chatterfang, I am making more of them. And then it's got this forage ability, put a 1/1 counter on each other squirrel you control. The Valley Rockcaller. Love the printing of this card. You know what? Bloomburrow Loki is one of my favorite sets of all time. Me and my kids absolutely loved it. Menace, and whenever the Valley Rockcaller attacks, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the number of squirrels, bats, lizards, and rats you control. You have no idea how many tokens. I mean, you probably do because you're watching this video and you like squirrels. But this card with squirrels is a killer. Pitiless Plunderer. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token. Here's the deal. I can sacrifice a food. Then I'll create a treasure. Then I'll create a squirrel if Chatterfang's on the battlefield. So incredible card. Hazel's Brewmaster, Menace. And whenever Hazel's Brewmaster enters or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard and create a food token. Foods you control have all the activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Hazel's Brewmaster. Powerful combo. Powerful synergy. Ravenous Squirrel. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact or creature, put a 1/1 counter on Ravenous Squirrel. I hope you can see how all these cards work together right now. And you're watching in real time on this video right now, how this deck can just get massively out of control. I never thought that when I built a squirrel deck, it might be my strongest deck. This goes hard, trust me. All right, so the Ravenous Squirrel. The Odd Acorn Gang. Menace, Trample, and Reach. Squirrels you control have tapped this. Target squirrel gets +2/+2 and gains Trample until the end of the turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Whenever 1 or more squirrels you control deal combat damage to a player, you draw a card. The Nut Collector. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. Threshold, all squirrels get +2/+2 as long as there's 7 or more cards in your graveyard. Mirkwood Bats. This card, I've talked about this before in some of these other episodes. This card in a deck that creates tokens is just, I mean, it's elite. Like hands down, one of the most elite Magic cards I have ever seen. And it's common, and you can get it for $1 or under. If you make tokens, you need a Mirkwood Bats. Flying, whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. So think about, I'm creating tokens. I'm creating double tokens with Chatterfang. and I am doing all kinds of damage with the Mirkwood Bats. Orcish Bowmasters, great card, no explanation necessary. Could have a place in any black deck ever. The Academy Manufacturer. If you would create a clue, food, or treasure token, instead create one of each. Massive token generator. If you have a treasure deck, if you have a food deck, if you have a squirrel deck, you need this. Deranged Hermit. Echo. During your next upkeep, after this permanent comes under your control, pay its casting cost or sacrifice it. And when Deranged Hermit comes into play, put 4 squirrel tokens into play. Treat those tokens as 1/1 green creatures. All squirrels get +1/+1. There are so many squirrel anthems. And I know you see that next card. And you know I had to include it. I just have like 9 million, 1,000, 100 billion, trillion squirrels on the battlefield. And then I bring over the big daddy, the finisher, Craterhoof Behemoth. Useful in elf decks, useful in goblin decks if you build a green-red goblin deck, and super useful in a squirrel deck. Haste. When Craterhoof Behemoth enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X till the end of the turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. I got enough squirrel tokens. This comes on the board, ends the game for everybody. So this card was an auto include. He's not a squirrel, but he's friends with the squirrels. Cauldron Familiar. When Cauldron Familiar enters, each opponent loses a life, you gain a life, and then sacrifice a food, and you return Cauldron Familiar from your graveyard to the battlefield. Super useful with all the food cards in here. Blood Artist. Whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life, so just low-key some life loss and life gain in the mix. Bloodroot Apothecary. Toxic 2. Players dealt combat damage by this creature also get 2 poison counters. A player with 10 or more poison counters loses the game. I've won the game on this card, by the way. When Bloodroot Apothecary enters, you and target opponent each create a treasure token. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-creature token, that player gets 2 poison counters. This can actually really, really shut down decks. Like if I use this against my Corvold deck, I get this out. This is a bad day for anyone playing with Corvold. So super useful. Deathrite Shaman, again, no explanation necessary. One of the greatest magic cards ever created. A little bit of graveyard hate for a super low casting cost. If you are playing black and green, that is an auto include in almost any deck that has those colors. And then Toski, Bearer of Secrets, one of the more famous squirrels. People use this in a lot of different types of decks. The spell can't be countered. It's indestructible. It attacks each combat if able. And whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. People don't talk about draw enough or card advantage. That's a huge part of the competitive game of Magic. There's 2 things I really pay attention to. 1, the total mana value of the deck. And I'm just looking over here because the total mana value of the deck, I've got all the stats on my deck on Moxfield here, is 174. If you have a total mana value, let's actually back up a second. What is mana value, Bobby? Well, the mana value of this card is 4. 1 green, 3 colorless. The mana value of this is 1. The mana value of this is 3. The mana value of this is 2. It's the casting cost of the cards. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. For these 4 cards, the mana value is 10, right? If your mana value of your deck is under 200, that deck's going to go super fast. And in competitive Magic, you want to be rolling on an early turn. The earlier turn, the better. So the lower that mana value, the better you're going to be. But the second thing I pay attention to is card draw. Card draw is huge, and card draw is always a good thing. The more cards you can draw, provided you could use them, of course. There's some nuance there, but provided you could use them, you always want more card draw. So that's a great card. All right, we have covered off all the creatures, and in this deck, there are, I was going to count them, but I got them right here. There are 29 total creatures. Generally, when I build decks, I try to keep creatures between 25 and 30, unless there's some other reason not to. Now we're going to cover off sorceries and instants, doing it in a bit different of an order today. Sometimes I'll do artifacts, enchantments, but I feel like going here. I saw the Chatterstorm, and I thought, let's dive right in. Create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token, and then it's got Storm on it. Verdant Command. All right, squirrel themed card. Target creature creates 2 tapped 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. Counter target loyal ability of a planeswalker. Exile target card from a graveyard, and then target creature player or target player gains 3 life. So super usable card in here. Thoughtseize, a way to get a card out of a player's hand and discard it. Great card to kind of ruin somebody's plans. Second Harvest. For each token you control, create a token that's a copy of that permanent. Swarmyard Massacre, create 2 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. Then each creature that isn't an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel gets -1/-1 until the end of turn for each creature you control that's an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel. So kind of like an asymmetric Toxic Deluge. Great card if I've got a bunch of squirrels on the battlefield, and I'm willing to pay the high casting cost for that. Heroic Intervention, permanents I control gain hexproof and indestructible until the end of turn. Great card, useful in almost any commander deck. Worldly Tutor, a way for me to go get that Craterhoof Behemoth for my win condition. So I like that tutor in this deck. Assassin's Trophy, one of the best removal spells you'll ever see. Destroy target permanent. That's the key. You're not just getting rid of a creature. I underestimated this card early on, but as I've gotten better and better at Commander, this is an auto include in any black and green deck. It's up for, if you were to talk about the greatest black green cards ever, this and Deathrite Shaman I think are at the top of the list. Tutor, why not? I want as many tutors as possible to go get the stuff I need for my win condition. Demonic Tutor, maybe the greatest black tutor of all time because you put it in your hand. So I got 2 high-level tutors there. Green Sun's Zenith, another incredible tutor to go get a green creature card. And I have no problem making mana in this deck. You'll see that in a minute. So another great green, tutor, if you will. And then I got Diabolic Intent. There's an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. Easy to do because I have all these tokens. And then I go get a creature. Now, question, Bobby Maximus, why wouldn't you put Imperial Seal in here? Because I don't have enough Imperial Seals. I wish I had a bunch of them. If I had a bunch of them, I would put them in every black deck I make. But as I said before, these are all my real cards. And this deck exists in real time. Like you see all the 100 cards. I don't switch these cards between decks. So if I already have, let me actually tell you where my Imperial Seals are. So let me look that up here. And this is the great thing about this website. I can just search where to get them. All right. Okay, so I've got one in my zombie deck, the Hordes of Raccoon City. I have one in my Brea deck, the Rise of the Machines. I have one in my vampire deck, the Eastern Coven. I have one in my elf deck already, the Woodland Realm. I only own 4 Imperial Seals, right? So those are where those went. Anyway, so I went with one of the lesser known tutors. Not lesser known, it's actually fairly well known, but one of the lesser tutors, Diabolic Intent. But I'm a big fan of Diabolic Intent, and I'm a big fan of Insatiable Avarice, especially if you're on a budget. And this actually is really, really good because you can, A, put the card in your hand, but B, when I have a deck like this, it's creating all these 1/1 tokens. I don't need them that much. So sacrifice a token, it's not a big deal. This card hurts if you got to sacrifice a big creature. You got to sacrifice a little 1/1 green squirrel, no big deal. All right. Next, we're going to talk about enchantments. Squirrel Nest. Enchanted Land has create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. Cover of Darkness. All my creatures are going to have fear. Steely Resolve, great card, and this is the secret layer version of this. Let's turn this around so we can read it. All right. The Steely Resolve enters the battlefield. Choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type have shrouds. It's a way to protect a lot of my creatures, and I love this printing of it. I wish I would have bought a bunch of these. Scavenger's Talent, all right? It's a class enchantment. Whenever one or more creatures you control die, create a food token. This ability triggers only once each turn. And how these work is you gain the next level as a sorcery or to add to its ability. Level 2, whenever you sacrifice a permanent, target creature mills 2 cards. I'm going to be sacrificing a lot of stuff in this deck, so that works really well. You can win a game as like milling people, kind of like a secondary win condition, if you will. Level 3, at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice 3 other non-land permanents. If you do, return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Awesome card. Squirrel Sanctuary. When Squirrel Sanctuary, and by the way, I actually back up. This is why I love Bloomburrow so much. There's so many powerful cards in that deck. All right, you feel that earthquake there? There you go. All right, Squirrel Sanctuary. When Squirrel Sanctuary enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you may pay 1. If you do, return Squirrel Sanctuary to its owner's hand. Cloakwood Hermit. Commander creatures. This is a background enchantment. Commander creatures you own have at the beginning of your end step. Create if a creature card was put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, create 2 tapped 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. Now this card you can get for let me see here. How much is this worth? It's not worth that much because it's only useful in a squirrel deck, first of all. I guess you could use it in a lot of decks, but like a squirrel deck is where it's going to go hard. And this deck is called the Swarms of Ratatoskr, so I can look it up. I love having this list, by the way. It's super handy. But this card is worth, here we go, 36 cents. That's it. But in this deck, it's really, really good. And it's squirrel themed. And people often talk about the price of cards. Like the price of that card, Sylvan Library, you know what that does. It's a great card, auto include in almost any green deck. But people talk about, this card's good because it's cheap or because it's expensive. That's not necessarily true, right? You got to look at how the cards work with other cards. And sometimes when I build these decks, it's you could make an argument like, Bobby, why would you put a Cloakwood Hermit in there when you could go include the Imperial Seal or a Shieldred or like whatever card you're going to use. Shieldred's a super powerful card, by the way. But I include it because it's squirrel themes. I build as much around themes as collecting as I do winning. So just something to keep in mind. Mana Crypt, banned right now as we make this video, but I'm going to make the prediction. And by the way, we're going to have receipts because these are all uploaded to the YouTube. I think this is going to be unbanned soon, so I get included in this deck. And me and my friends in my play group, we play with illegal cards. Like, this isn't that much of a game breaker. It's a great card, but there are other cards that are just as good. Bootlegger's Stash. Lands you control have create a treasure token. Mega card in this deck. High casting cost, but totally worth it, especially with Chatterfang's ability. Creature Anthem, maybe the best one of all time. Vanquisher's Banner. Lotus Petal, way to fast ramp some mana. Arcane Signet, fast ramp some mana. Witch's Oven, sacrifice a creature, create a food token. If the sacrificed creature's toughness was 4 or greater, create 2 food tokens. Great token generator with Chatterfang, all right? It's kind of like a 2-for-1 deal, if you will. Look at this. Where is my Chatterfang? Let's find him. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. I sacrifice a creature, one of my 1/1 squirrel tokens. I create a food token and then create another squirrel, right? So I can just make a mega amount of tokens with that combo. Witch's Oven auto include with Chatterfang. Actually thinking right now, I probably got to put a Witch's Oven in my Corval deck. That would be super helpful. Talisman of Resilience. All right, a little fast mana ramp. Agatha's Soul Cauldron. One of the best cards ever created. This card is incredible, especially in a deck that's got 1/1 counters. Swiftwood Boots. All right, way to protect my commander. Ashnod's Altar, way to generate some mana. Konda's Banner, love this card. Anything that's squirrel, anything that's green and black is getting a bump. All right. Nuka-Cola Vending Machine, create a food token. Whenever I sacrifice a food, create a tapped treasure token. Think about how that works with Chatterfang. I just explained it with Witch's Oven. You could do it with this too. Skull Clamp, card drop. Chitter Splitter. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may sacrifice a token. If you do, put an acorn counter on Chitter Splitter. Squirrels you control get +1/+1 for each acorn counter on Chitter Splitter. And I can create tokens. Great card with Chatterfang, Soul Ring, and Bolas' Citadel, one of those game changer cards. A way to get access to my cards early. I'm just realizing in this deck, I probably also need, with all the food and life I can make, I probably need to add an Aetherflux Reservoir and a Sensei's Divining Top to this deck, just as like another win condition. There's actually an infinite combo with that, with Bolas' Citadel, Sensei's Divining Top, and Aetherflux, where you can instantly, kind of win the game. But I need to buy some more. And that's the unfortunate thing about Magic. I don't have all the cards. Like, I have a massive collection, but let's look at Aetherflux. All right, I have 3 Aetherflux Reservoirs, right? So they went in my Elf deck, one in my Brea deck, one in my Waking Apocalypse deck, and then I did this Aetherflux Eruption deck. I'm actually building it right now. It's not finished yet, but it went in there. So, I need to buy more of them so I can include them in this deck. And that's one of the things with building decks is like sometimes people are like, hey, you should have included this. You should have included this. Well, maybe I didn't have the cards. But that said, make sure in the show notes you show me, give me some suggestions, because if I have them, I'll put them in, Lands, we'll cover lands now. We got forests, a couple of secret layer versions here, and these are just my basic lands, really pretty ones. I try when I can to put really nice forests in my deck because these things are my collection and I love them. And now for the non-basic lands. We have the Swarm Yard. We generate squirrels. Really, I don't care about the other things, but squirrels I do. Twilight Mire, Darkmoor Pathway, one of those two-sided lands. The Shire, I can create tokens with it. Landwar Wastes, Underground Mortuary. These surveil lands from Murders of Karlov Manor are absolutely awesome in any deck. They're really underrated. Oh, look at this. A creature hiding out. Hazel of the Root Bloom. Basically the second commander in this deck. I can't believe I did not put this in the creature pile, but we're getting a bonus right now. Back to the creatures. So Hazel of the Root Bloom. Tap it, pay 2 life, tap X untap tokens you control, and add X mana in any combination of colors. And at the beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. If that token is a squirrel, instead create 2 tokens that are copies of it. You know, this deck works better with Chatterfang, but if I had to use this as a commander in this deck, I would not be disappointed. Some people like this better than Chatterfang as the primary squirrel commander. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you like this one or Chatterfang? But anyway, we got a creature bonus, and a bunch of you are about to jump me in the comments and say, hey, Bobby, where's Hazel of the Root Bloom? Well, there it is, hiding in the lands next to the Mud Flat Village. Verdant Catacombs, Path of Ancestry, the Blooming Marsh, Oak Hollow Village, Orin, Reef, the Vastwood, and I know you see it. Oh, Gaea's Cradle. Yes, I put a legitimate, real, non-proxy Gaea's Cradle in my kid's Squirrel deck. One of only 2 Gaea's Cradles that I like, but I really want to get my kids into Magic. He wants a powerful land. Well, here you go, the most powerful land in Magic. Urza's Cave, a way for me to fetch my Gaea's Cradle. Anytime you'll see a powerful land like a Gaea's Cradle or a Tolarian Academy, you will see an Urza's Cave in that deck too. Woodland Cemetery, Command Tower, beautiful version. Fabled Passage, and the Wastewood Verge, these new Verge lands from Aetherdrift. I was going to say DFT, but from Aetherdrift are tremendous. So that is my Squirrel deck. Love Squirrels. Super powerful. Great deck. Create a ton of tokens and run over your opponents, or you can use that other win condition, the Craterhoof Behemoth. You can mill people to death. Like, there's a lot of great stuff in this deck. Like I said earlier, I really want to add an Aetherflux Reservoir, so I need to go get one. I probably should order one from the card store, but if I can get an Aetherflux Reservoir in here, Sensei's Divining Top, it'll make this deck even more elite, but it's pretty good so far. As always, you have suggestions. I will use your suggestions, by the way. One of the beauties of Magic the Gathering for me is there's always something to learn. I love playing with people because you always learn from other people's decks, and you see new combos, new synergies, new strategies. There are so many cards, it's almost impossible to keep track of them all. But that's one thing I love about the game, because you can always learn, you can always adapt, and these decks are never finished. In fact, by the time you see this video, maybe there will be. You'll go to my deck list and you'll be like, man, Bobby did get his Aetherflux Reservoir. I'm constantly working on these and harnessing them and tinkering them. So make sure you follow me on Moxfield. It's in the show notes. Bookmark my decks, or whatever that's called, and yeah, keep up, because I am making decks at a furious rate. These are all from my collection. I've collected for 30 years, so I was really fortunate enough to have a ton of cards that I don't need proxies. And listen, there's nothing wrong for people that want to use proxies, like to play the game. That's for them. For me, I want to explain something to you. There was a time in my life where I couldn't afford a lot of stuff. And when I could afford it, and I went to buy a card, there was a certain sense of pride. It feels so good to like come home with a card I really want. Like, maybe it's this card, maybe it's a Swiftwood Boots, maybe it's Agatha's Soul Cauldron. That's more like it, 'cause it's an expensive card. When I can save up, what do these go for? Like 30, 40 bucks. When I can save up the money for that and buy it and actually put it in my deck, there's a certain feeling I get from that, like a sense of pride, but also a sense of real excitement. For me, I think just printing out whatever proxy I need would kind of take that away, because for me, it's a lot more about the collecting than it is the playing. Now, I think I'm a pretty good Magic player. No Brian Kibler, but I'd like to think I'm pretty good, and I'd like to think my decks are good. But this is my collection. It's something I take a lot of pride in. It's something I want to leave to my kids one day. Maybe it'll pay for the college if I can ever bring myself to sell them. I don't know. But anyway, it means something to me to go buy cards. But where was I going with this? Yeah, sometimes I don't have the cards to put in, and then I get them, and I'm super excited. So by the time you check back, the deck might be a little different, but the theme will remain the same. And yeah, the greatest Squirrel deck of all time. If you can think of a better Squirrel deck, I would love to see it, and I would love to learn. Thank you for being a part of my community. I absolutely love Magic the Gathering. It's made my world a better place. And you, the community, has made my world a better place. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.